So, folks, welcome in the ring and a very good night to each and every one of you. A very good evening to each and every one of you. Welcome in the ring. Let's fight, folks. We hope that you are good wherever you are this evening. We hope you had a good day at work. I had a fantastic day in Parliament. I could go perhaps another 8 hours non-stop. Folks, you sent us there. You sent me there for a purpose. And I hope every day that I'm accomplishing that purpose a little more on your behalf, the people's behalf. Folks, thanks for joining. Those of you who might be still at work, our thoughts are with you. This is the graveyard shift beginning anytime around now, the graveyard shift, folks. And we thank you for being here with us. When we come on, we like for you the guys to share the live stream, share this live stream for our folks on Twitter. We love you guys, and our Twitter audience have been increasing. At Shara Duncan on Twitter, our Facebook audience have been increasing too. Our YouTube audience have been increasing. Folks have been watching on YouTube. Rashly Ford, I see that right there. Flavor, one of our biggest fans. Black Demon, we see you there. Mark Allman, we see you there. Smart Felix and Harry Dukaran. We see all you guys. Cheryl Williams, we see you. We see you. Deborah Bishop. All you guys who make the program what it is. We encourage you guys to share the live stream this evening. We're going to have a special guest. We're going to have some hot topics. We're going to have a good night to all, except so privileged and so happy that you guys can be with us. If it's one thing we're sure about is that if we come on and when we come on every night, Monday to Friday, you guys are going to be with us. And we're tremendously grateful for that. Whether you're joining us on Twitter, folks, if you're on Twitter, give us a retweet and give us a comment there. We want to share your comment on Facebook. I don't think we've ever shared one of the comments from Twitter on Facebook. So you can be the first this evening. Give us a comment. Let us know where you're receiving us from on Twitter. Andrew Weeks, good to see you. Andrew says he's ready to fight the trench crappos. We're right with you, Andrew, right with you. And Stephanie King, good to see you there. Carly Hendy Braffett, good to see you as well. Dan Fordyce, Marty Hodge. All of you folks make the program what it is each and every night. Folks, them are watch we. Them are watch we in the newspapers, in Parliament, everything. In the ring. My Lord. My Lord. And you know why? It's not to see me. I all watch it and gone through. It's because of you. Because of you. They frighten the viewership. They are afraid of your voice. That is what they're afraid of, folks. And we got to keep bringing it to them. Lynette Zephyr, good to see you. Haven't heard from you, Lynette, in a long time. Hope you and your family are well. Randy Fowler, good to see you as well. Licia Braffett, good to see you. J. Sean Campbell and Michael Samuels, Stan Bourne, and my brother Harry Dukaran, all the way from Texas. Everything is bigger in Texas, they say. So, Harry, hope you and the family having a good time. One of our stalwarts, one of our hardworking folks. Harry joining us again from Texas. Clifford Class and Laverne Fredericks, Paulette Benji, all of you guys. We invite you guys to share with us. Look, this evening, when I check that Facebook, I want to see some shares. As a matter of fact, let me go and share 2 places myself. And I'm going to castigate all of you for not sharing it. I'm going to castigate all of you. Watching for that magic number, folks. As soon as you reach that magic number, we are going to be off like a rocket, guys. As soon as we reach that magic number, we are waiting for you guys, patiently waiting. You see, we quote yes, right? And they say in certain places we're backyard bullies, backyard and front yard bullies. Nonsense. We are decent people, and we are tremendously privileged. All of you joining us. We're going to be joined a little later on in the evening by Member of Parliament, Cathy Hughes. We're going to be joined by our colleague, and I hope that you guys can stick around. Lots to talk about, lots of hot topics to get through as well. And we're happy that you guys are going to be here with us, help us get through. And we see quite a few shares already on social media. Guys, share the live stream. Right? What is that? Share the live stream for us. Share the live. Y'all are disgusting, Y'all are really and truly usually cooperative. Whether you're APNU, AFC, whether you're PPP, All are welcome in the ring. We see value in you, and we value you, and we welcome you in the ring. Guys, I am loving what I'm seeing on social media. I am simply loving it. So, guys, we look forward to all the shares that you guys are going to do there. Continue to share the live stream, and we're going to continue to do what we have to do. Elaine Charles, Laverne Fredericks, and all the others. Thank you guys for sharing the live stream. We are happy that you guys are with us. Donna Butts Benjamin, good night to you as well. The Honorable Donna Butts Benjamin. I'm just teasing there, guys. I am just teasing there. I want to share it a couple places too. And let me make sure that, yeah, I'm almost ready. Almost ready. Almost ready. Almost ready, guys. Share, share. Tag a friend. Tag a friend of me. If that's what it takes. All right. Tag a friend. Tag someone. We're in the ring tonight. Let's fight. Let's fight, folks. All right. Our numbers are looking nice. We are looking good, folks. All right. So I have one other share, and then we're good to go. And we're ready to rumble. Folks, I wore my tie. We're blue. I hope I'm contrasting well for you guys. I want to be put together when I'm talking to my people, right? We ain't coming out looking anyhow, scruffy, right? Guys, I want to tell you, they are so afraid of us right now. They are so afraid of us right now because you know what? We are the show. We are number one in social media, and I want to thank you for that. I really want to thank you for that because you show up every night and we have a good time. We show up every night and we have a time. So I have you guys to thank for that. When we do our outreaches, people talk about in the ring. As I said earlier on, in the parliament, in the papers, people make reference to this show. They are watching us, folks. They are watching us. They are watching us and trying to do what we're doing. But nobody can do us like we can do us. But no one, no one, no one, no one. So guys, we're going to keep on doing what we got to do. We are going to keep on doing what we got to do. And we're not going to bother with a damn thing else. But, all right, let me see. I think I shared it where I needed to. All right, that being said, we are right where we need to be, folks. We are right where we need to be. Right where we need to be. Right where we need to be. Again, so glad that you guys can join us. I'm like ready to go. So who's not on the train? Sorry for you. Sorry for you. I am so ready to go, guys. So ready to go. Locked and loaded. Ready to go, locked and loaded. And I hope you guys are ready for the hot topics this evening. All right, let's start talking about COVID. Why don't we start there this evening? Usually we leave COVID for last because we really want to emphasize this, but we'll still do it at the end of the program. Folks, this evening I'm just sipping my tea. Just sipping my tea. Let's start with COVID because a bunch of nonsense happening where COVID is concerned. Nandia Seafort and Suraj North, Tamara Isaacs, Bridget Vigilance, Myrtle Hines, St. Romaine Adams, Donald David, Desiree Simon Liverpool, all you guys. A lot of nonsense happening with COVID at home in this country. A lot of foolishness. Now, there was this big race over the weekend by the Guyana Motor Racing and Sports Club, the GMR and SC, Guyana Motor Racing and Sports Club. And guys, in ordinary times, this would have been all well and good. Can you imagine the COVID task force? Can you guys imagine? Can you fathom? Guys, just hold 1 second for me. Can you imagine that the COVID task force said to us over the weekend that they give permission for this meeting to happen of this group. Can you imagine that? The COVID task force telling us that they give permission for over 1,500 persons to meet at this rally. Over 1,500 persons. The COVID task force give permission to meet in this way. Isn't that madness, folks? Isn't that utter madness? Over 1,500 persons. Look at that crowd, right? So quite over, I believe, 3,000 persons would have met. Over 3,000 persons would have met at the GMR and SC, the Guyana Motor Racing and Sports Club. This race that they had, or races, at the South Dakota circuit. Thousands of persons. So here is the government of Guyana encouraging a super spreader event. Ladies and gentlemen, can you believe that? Can you fathom that? Right? Here is the government of the day encouraging a super spreader event. Thousands of persons met there. And today, the government came out after the fact to say that the National COVID-19 Task Force, right, on Sunday evening suspended all activities of the GMR and SC because they only gave permission for 1,500 persons to meet, but more than that would have met. These people crazy? As the leader of the opposition said today in Parliament, it seems as though they are hedging all of their bets on these COVID vaccines. That once these COVID vaccines come, all will be well and good. So we don't have to practice any social distancing now, any sanitizing, any wearing of masks. So quite over 3,000 persons, we are reliably informed, turn up at the South Dakota circuit. The Linden-Sioux Highway was jam-packed yesterday. Jam-packed, right? Because again, the government has no concern about COVID-19. As a matter of fact, folks, for those of you who have been following the parliamentary debate on the national budget, the Minister of Health spoke today, and ministers and shadow ministers are given half an hour, and if your presentation is not concluded by then, a member of your side, government or opposition, can request an additional 5 minutes for you to wrap up. Frank Anthony spoke for about 33 minutes on everything else under the sun, And then he said, oh, I will now turn my attention to COVID-19. Like it's an afterthought. I will now turn my attention to COVID-19. So this is what we have happening, folks. Thousands of persons turned up. All right, no social distancing over the weekend. So you can expect to see a spike in COVID-19 in the coming days. This is what one sports journalist said on social media. Because people are so incensed by what has transpired over the weekend. A national football player from Linden hosted a party. This is Royal Tony, sports journalist Royal Tony. A national football player from Linden hosted a party. He was quickly arrested and eventually sentenced to 2 weeks in prison after being found guilty of breaching the COVID-19 regulations. But the GMR and SC executives, after hosting an event with thousands of people, only punishment so far is having their planned events suspended. Tony goes on. Here's the good part. They were given conditional approval to allow 1,500 persons at the South Dakota circuit. 1,500 persons. He says, LOL, I know some national federations who didn't get approval for less than 20 national athletes to train, not compete, not host a tournament, but just train as they prepare for international tournaments. So there are Guyanese bodies, national athletic associations, who couldn't get permission from the task force for 20 persons to meet to train. But GMSNRC can get permission for 4,000 people to meet. Folks, y'all think there's equality in this country? I know some of you don't want to accept it, but it is difficult to believe. We are hard pressed to believe that there is democracy in this country. Just today, I got some photographs out of Letem, and this is the Letem post office. This is the Letem post office, where apparently there's no COVID-19 policy. At least there's none for social distancing. I see some people wearing their masks, some not wearing their masks properly. But this was our seniors at Letem post office. It is the government, it is the authorities' purview to ensure that citizens are complying with COVID-19 regulations. And of all the people we want to put at risk, our seniors, right, should not be the people we want to put at risk with underlying conditions, with what they call comorbidities. Our seniors are not the people we should be aiming to put at risk. Again, this is Letem post office. Letem post office, ladies and gentlemen. So I don't know what the COVID task force is doing, what criteria they look at, but the Prime Minister heads the COVID task force, or the national COVID effort, or whatever you want to call it. The Prime Minister leads that effort. He leads that effort, and he has to give an account to this nation for the nonsense that we see happening, whether it's in Letem or whether it is the GMS and RC and this super spreader event that the entity had over the weekend. And I read for you the thoughts and commentary of sports journalist Roald Tony, livid on this matter, that again, you can have sports fraternities that cannot meet to train 20 people, but the government can allow 1,500 people, according to them, they give permission for 1,500 people to meet. And we know now that hundreds more met at the South Dakota circuit at that super spreader event over the weekend. Some of those people are going back to workplaces. They're going back to families. They're going back to children. They're going back to the elderly. They're going into communities. And what do you think is going to happen, Mr. Prime Minister? What do you think is going to happen, Mr. Frank Anthony? What do you think is going to happen, Mr. Vice President? What do you think is going to happen, Mr. President? A whole pack of fraudulent bunch. Turning our attention now, last week we told you of the bad boss. And we will continue to highlight all of the bad bosses. So this is the bad boss of the Linden Hospital complex, Mr. Rudy Small. And they say, in name as in nature, Rudy is small. That is the word we have received. Rudy is in name as in nature. He is small. And so some horrible comments have been attributed to the CEO of the Linden Hospital Corporation, Mr. Rudy Small. Reprehensible comments. And just today, nurses and health workers in Linden met and protested Mr. Small's continuance there at the Linden Hospital complex. Over the weekend, I think, if not late last week, Mr. Small met with nurses, met with staff at the hospital, and said that it was the journalist who misquoted him or took matters out of context. And what did the journalist do in response? The journalist released the tape of the conversation with himself and Mr. Small, which, of course, could have only been fuel to fire in terms of the rage of the nurses because of how he described them. And we want to share that recording, or at least an excerpt of that recording, with you folks this evening. Take a listen. Do we have that? I think we do.
May need nurses.
We can't. We can't. They're so accustomed, Ron, to coming to work. I'm telling you what's going on now, and I'm going to put a stop to it. You have some nurses, especially on the night, they come to work, they sign in, they get away, and they go and sleep with this sweet man.
Whoa.
Sweet man is screw them all night, and then just come back to work and sign out in the morning.
What?
All the lawlessness going on. What? All the lawlessness going on there.
These nurses
If
break.
you're friends with the system thing, you can get away.
But like,
Folks, let me play that for you one more time. Let me play Mr. Small for you guys one more time.
may need nurses.
We can't. We can't. They're so accustomed.
Let me play that for you guys one more time.
May need nurses.
We can't. We can't. They're so accustomed, Ron, to coming to work. I'm telling you what's going on now, and I'm going to put a stop to it. You have some nurses, especially on the night, they come to work, they sign in, they get away, and they go and sleep with this sweet man.
Whoa.
Sweet man is screw them all night, and then just come back to work and sign out in the morning.
What?
All the lawlessness going on. What? All the lawlessness going on there.
These nurses
If
break.
you're friends with the system thing, you can get away.
But like,
Folks, there you have it. There you have it. There you have it, folks. What do we say to these things? What do we say to these things? And Mr. Small is new to the hospital complex, to the Linden Hospital complex. Mr. Saul is new, but listen to his description of the nurses under his charge. No evidence, share speculation and conjecture from Mr. Saul. We're monitoring this situation as the nurses there, ladies and gentlemen, continue their protest action. We're going to continue to monitor that. Guess who went back to school? Learn to differentiate between pronouns and prepositions. You've guessed it right. I'm not going to give you any clues, but I'm certain you guessed it right. Guess who went back to school to learn the difference between pronouns and prepositions? All right? I don't think you need anything more than that. There you have it. The fraudulent Minister of Education. And folks, we knew it was a puppet show. We knew it was a puppet show. And more, we are seeing the strings being pulled. More and more, we're seeing Irfan Ali's strings being pulled. Today, we learned, by way of a gazetted letter to the governor of the central bank, Gobind Ganga, the president wrote to the governor of the central bank. He says in his letter, I hereby, with immediate effect, authorize Dr. Bharat Jagdeo, vice president, who has specific oversight responsibilities for finance, to oversee the design, including signing and issuance of notes and coins as required under Section 23(1) of the Bank of Guyana Act number 19 of 1998. Sincerely, Mohammed Irfan Ali, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. Yep, there you have it. That is the strings, the puppet. He is playing the strings of Mr. Ali. That is what is happening here. The puppet is pulling the strings, the puppet master rather, is pulling the strings of the puppet. And if that wasn't bad, on the same day, this is at the office of the president. This is at the office of the president. This is the fraudulent Irfan Ali, Vice President Barjagdio, fraudulent Vice President Barjagdio. According to the report, earlier today, they met with several members of the Regional Health Authority, or rather regional health officers, to discuss issues affecting them. Yep. So this is the puppet master and the puppet. All right. Barjagdio is a health professional now. So he is meeting with the president and health officers. The same day, we're seeing this gazetted letter. The very same day, we are seeing this gazetted letter, ladies and gentlemen. So we are following the puppet show. We are following the puppet show. So today, we learned that Ali has given central bank the directives that Mr. Jagdio should be involved in the design and signing, right, of whatever it relates to issuance of notes and coins. And now there's a co-presidency at Office of the President, with them meeting together with members of the public, right? We told you all that we saw this movie before. This was the Ramatar Jagdio, but he was behind the scenes then. He was content, but Ramatar do too much nonsense. And he's refusing now to stay behind the curtains and pull the strings. So he's pulling it now in front of your faces. Folks, in other news, we are following this, what is being called the rape, sodomizing, and battery of a Spanish woman. And we're picking this up out of Kaitor News. Sometimes I'm so ashamed of the attitude of some Guyanese men, right? We're picking up this report out of Kaitor News, and it is, I don't even want to read it sometimes here, right? I don't even want to read it. Good? But unfortunately, this woman here met with these unfortunate circumstances right in central Georgetown. I'm going to read one paragraph. The woman said that she was standing not too far from a club located at the corner of Robb and Cubbing Street, Georgetown, smoking a cigarette around 22:30 hours. She said an acquaintance pulled up beside her in a small gray car. She detailed that she had met him a few times before in the club and noted that he seemed to be a nice person. We exchanged greeting and he offered me a job, sex work, according to Kaitor News. I agreed, she continued, and he invited me to his house. I was a bit skeptical to go at first, but he insisted, and I entered the car and left with him. The woman said that they did not chat much during the journey, but he tried to touch her while driving. I told him, no, that is not my job. She stated that she became a little bit suspicious, right? Nevertheless, she brushed her feelings aside since, based on previous conversations, he presented himself as a decent individual, and the night took a different turn. Right? According to this report, the police, the cops, pelt clothes on her and released her rapist. And folks, we are still following this horrific incident, right? And at this point, we say a good night to all, except we're still going to follow that story. A good night to all, except we have our guest standing by, and I want to get right to her very quickly. A good night to all, except, and ladies and gentlemen, it's a good night to all except the Prime Minister for the nonsense happening in COVID-19, the fraudulent Mark Phillips. You saw what happened over the weekend as pertaining to the South Dakota Circuit and the Guyana Motor Racing and Sports Club. You saw the nonsense that is happening in Lethem, right? And in so many other places coming on the East Coast this afternoon. The seawall is like Easter. And again, the leader of the opposition in his presentation in Parliament today said they seem to be staking all of their hopes and dreams on these what the vaccines, the COVID vaccines coming to save us. So all of the rules and regulations have gone out of the window. So for them and for us, it's a good night to all except Prime Minister Mark Phillips. And we're going to talk about him at the end of our show again. Ladies and gentlemen, I have with me my guest for the evening as we move into the other segment of our program tonight. And this evening we are close up with the one and only former Minister of Telecommunication, Member of Parliament, Miss Cathy Hughes. And we're delightful to have her with us this evening. Minister Hughes, welcome in the ring.
Thank you. Thank you, Sherrod. I'm good.
All right. So you had a fantastic presentation in terms of the sheer content, what you laid out before the National Assembly and the nation, our record, what should be happening in ICT and where we should be going in much more or less in a COVID context. In part of your presentation, Minister Hughes, Member of Parliament Hughes, you talk about the government not even being considerate of our citizens in terms of offering them, an increase in wages and salaries. And specifically said the APNU AFC in our tenure unshackled the poor. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, the line, it was the Minister of Health who spoke before I spoke that talked about the APNU AFC administration shackling the poor. And I went to great lengths to remind him that for every single year, and we're talking about 4 to 5 short years that we were in government, we made a commitment and ensured that the public sector minimum wage was increased. So public servants knew every year under the APNU AFC, as part of our thrust to provide this good life, that they could be assured of an increase. And I went to great lengths to remind persons that this is something that the PPP, we know, has not up to this point in time been able to definitively say what the increase is that public servants would be getting in this 2021 budget. There was nothing allocated to public servants in 2020. There was nothing allocated in 2021. And we know even in years gone by, PPP at least used to give a small 5%. I'm very proud of the fact that we had about 2 or 3 instances where under the APNU AFC, our increases were 23%, 27%. People will remember that the very last increase went from 64,000 to just about 72,000, I think it was. I can get the exact figures. And of course, when we got in there, we know that the minimum wage was just about 30,000. And so we've progressively increased the rate. In fact, to be on the safe side, if you don't mind, I would just like to be correct and precise. So in 2015, it went to 29,500. And then, of course, later on in 2015, we took it from 29 to 50,000. And that alone is a 26% increase. And then in 2016, from 50 to 55, 2017, 50,000 to 60,000, 2018 from 60 to 64, and then 2019, 64,200 to 70,000. So we've made a commitment. The last year has been extremely difficult for Guyanese. Many people have been unemployed. Some deliberately have lost their jobs, have been fired, have been let go. And at a time when COVID has brought all these challenges, the fact that the PPP choose not to give at least a 5% increase, we feel is unacceptable. And so I use the term that we were not shackling the poor.
Yeah. And I think it was well receive, as you show the contrast year after year with the new AFC, and 2 budgets later with the PPP, no increase in salaries for public servants. And also you raise the issue of the minimum wage in the private sector, again, has eluded Mr. Joseph Hamilton, the Minister for Labor, fraudulent minister as he is, and lots of talk in the National Assembly, but when it comes to getting things done outside, we see something totally different happening.
Yeah, the minimum wage in the private sector is also very important, Sharad. You and I will know that there's some stores in the downtown area where some of the women work for $8,000 and $9,000 a week. Some people work for 12,000 for 10 days. This is really unacceptable.
Yeah. Cathy, the PPP has been painting this picture of this doom and gloom that was happening prior, and that they have come as the savior, and since they have come in, all is well and good.
Yeah.
I want to play you a footage of what was said quite recently in the assembly, and play what is happening on the ground, and get your response to that at the end of it.
In 6 months, if you go any village in this country and you speak to any single person, they breathe a sigh of relief that the last government was voted out of office. They breathe a sigh of relief. You know what they tell us, Mr. Speaker? They say what you've achieved in 6 months, it took the last government 5 years and they still can't achieve what you've achieved. Right?
Last week, Saturday, the doctor shared a piece of paper and said that Dharmlal come in. I don't know who is Dharmlal. And this morning when we come in, they said nobody can tell Dharmlal said the minister Dharmlal said everybody must move out. So I have to pay the bridge to go over. Who will pay the bridge for me? I come up for sale, me selling drugs, me thieving, me coming for crime. I am a vendor in this musical for the past 30, 40 years. And I'm not moving.
In 6 months, if you go to any village,
so that is what we have. We have the picture they're trying to paint.
Yeah.
They are rescuing this nation, and then we have the reality on the ground. Your thoughts?
I am saddened. I feel it for that lady, and of course all the vendors that dealt with that on Saturday morning. It's one thing to ask people to move, but then not to have a place for them to move. And we know that market really is a Saturday morning market. It's not as if they're there all the time. So the lady spoke for herself. I actually started my presentation, you will recall, Sharad, by objecting to the fact that the theme in this year's budget had the word recovery. And I raised the question, asked in the parliament today, recovering from what?
Yeah.
And I would just like to highlight for the viewers why I said that. Because, we have to admit that the PPP are masters at the propaganda. And they have had this recipe, so to speak, that they keep trying to push out there. And that recipe says that, the whole economy was collapsing, things were extremely bad, and they have come in to rescue. And this is where I reminded people that in September 2019, I don't know if you're actually playing the exact footage.
You did.
Okay, good. So I mentioned and I let the parliament know that in September 2019, the IMF declared Guyana the fastest growing economy in the world. And then in November 2019, Bloomberg, and all of these are large, reputable international agencies that deal with issues of economics and financing. So Bloomberg reports that Guyana's GDP to grow 14 times as fast as China. And that's what their prediction was for this year. And then, for last year. And then CNBC said that Guyana's economy is projected to grow by 86%. And I raise this because, again, we've never had those kinds of reports on the Guyanese economy. Our economy
Correct.
has grown consistently. Just earlier today, I heard Randy and reporting on the excellent presentation by Roysdale Ford. And Roysdale went into the Jagdeo years and was able to show a few years when there was negative growth, nothing more than a 3%. And we
Yeah.
far exceed 4%, 6%. And yet, the PPP insists on creating this illusion. Our economy has done the best it has ever done in these last um, 4 years. And yet, they don't want to speak the truth and give credit where it is due. Um, I had the press release from the IMF, and they actually say Guyana's economic growth strengthened in 2018 with broad-based expansions across all major sectors. And that is the IMF speaking about our economy in 2018. And it couldn't just happen like that in 2018. That is the sterling, the tight management of the economy, thanks to Winston Jordan and everything that was put in place from 2015.
See, you also walked through very systematically the failures of the PPP in terms of their records on mega projects.
Yes.
Because often we forget what these guys have done in this country.
Yes, yes. And, again, that was in response to Minister Frank Anthony, because he started off by screaming and shouting about all the projects that APNU AFC had failed at. And I was literally horrified, horrified. We know that they left the East Coast project, the East Bank project. The East Coast Road had actually started since 2010. That's when the contract was signed. And we were finally able, as the people of the East Coast know, to complete that in 2019. So we literally took that project from 2015, and by 2019 I had completed it. And the PPP had it on their books since 2010. Similarly, the East Bank Road, that project was signed under the PPP. We're the ones that started to change it. And as you will see, by the intersection of the what we would call the old train line road,
Yeah.
at the intersection of Sheriff Street, you will see how the project, thanks to us, was modified. So it includes a roundabout, and of course, IDB is funding the repairs to the road that go all the way from Sheriff Street up towards the intersection coming on to by Houston and the East Bank. Incomplete projects, Cato School. We remember the disaster where on that one school, more than $1 billion, not
Yeah.
a million, a B,
$1 billion. Yeah.
$1 billion was spent. And of course, the person that managed that total disaster was no other than Priya Manik Chan. We had the Chedijagan airport. We have, in the 5 years that we have been there, made that airport into something that resembles an international airport. And again, that is a contract that has been on the books in Guyana for more than 10 years, initially under the PPP, and we're the ones that brought it. So everything that they left, we tried to fix. Sharad, we could not fix that building on Upper High Street that was built
That
where
used to be
the old radio station,
GBC, the old GBC was, yeah.
the old GBC, and that building, anybody passing there, the very top of High Street will look at a concrete shell where the contractor, was paid the money, ran off. And even when we analyzed the building, the foundation and the existing structure was so bad, it was going to cost, I think, something like 3 or 5 billion dollars to just put it back to some semblance because the foundation was totally gone. So, so when we talk about projects, and that's not to mention Skeldon, that's not to mention the charity wharf that's
Yeah.
sunk and fade away, collapsed into the water, and so many other projects. Skeldon, the Skeldon factory, the PPP, the road that was supposed to go to the Mila Falls, the road to nowhere that we spent. That's
Never
right.
built anything.
So I try to remind him that, and the general thinking was, who are these people to talk
Yeah.
about these
Yeah.
kinds of um, failures when you have you carry you're the champion when it comes to projects that have failed, the things that were not delivered in the 23 years of the PPP. Sharad,
Yeah.
I mentioned also the fiber optic cable that should have run from Linden to Latham, that would have
Yeah.
provided Guyanese in the hinterland areas with even more access to the internet and connectivity than we were able to do in those two projects that we had. And we did
And
some
you mentioned also the billions that has cost us.
exactly. I mean, that there, and I have the document right here. Sharad, the initial cost of that project was um, $13 billion for one section, and then a further $3 billion. And this is the audit report done by Raman McRae, and they interview Alexei Ramatar, who was a project manager, Donald Ramatar's son. And they're really distressing accounts of the fact that, he was in charge of the bank, the checkbook and the bank accounts, and they were never reconciled. Um, you
If I
know,
remember correctly, this afternoon, the only response we got out of the PPP was, "Y'all like Ramatai now." That's all you could have said in response to what
sick.
you said in the National
Yes,
Assembly.
yes. I was trying very hard not to listen to them. But when you look at their overall management of this project, the fact that you would have um, over close to 15 billion Guyana dollars down the drain and nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
It's not even if part of that cable worked between a certain village, part of the highway, whatever. We did a very comprehensive assessment, and there was no part that could be salvaged. So that is money that has gone down the drain that we have nothing to show for, and we have
16
no
billion.
proof where it went. No proof
Yeah.
where it went.
16 billion.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, you also talked in your presentation about these accusations coming from the government side of the house on rigging, with little or no proof. Talk to us about that before you go.
Well, it's extremely sad, and you will recall that I started off by saying that I was saddened. I'm saddened to be a member of parliament in a parliament like what we have, which totally fails the Guyanese people. Shara, there's nothing constructive that comes out of the process. If you think about it, I was saying to a family member, imagine, God forbid, if I were to die today, and the last 7 days of my life I spent in that parliament from 10 in the morning, sometimes till 8 in the night. What a colossal waste of time, you know, it would have been in the last moments. And this is where it's so distressing, because there's nothing that we're doing that can be reflected as service to the people of Guyana.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is where the people of Guyana deserve so much more. I am very bothered. You go into the parliament, you promise and you say to yourself, I've done it many times, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to sit there and shut my mouth. And you literally have this incessant, constant battering at your sensibilities.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
far as I'm concerned, it's verbal abuse. And I'm very fortunate, as I said today, that I've never had family members or friends that abuse me verbally in such a manner. And I really object to it. We are perpetually sitting there and having people screaming and shouting about rigging and rigging and rigging. And today I tried to, and it was interesting that we've had a pandit, for example, who every single presenter sits at the back and screams and shouts
Yeah.
about
And the
rigging.
most obscene things. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And I attempted to make that point, and I was told that I needed to couch it in a different way, I suppose. But what I did explain, Sharad, and I reminded people that in 2011, there was a former elections commissioner by the name of Gokul Budu. This is not
Yeah.
hearsay,
Yeah.
this is fact. Anybody could go and do their own research. Gokul Budu was the chief elections officer. And on the day that those election results for the 2011 elections were being announced, there was a huge delay. I was sitting at the Pegasus Hotel waiting. People were there. The media was there. And that's when we discovered that he had attempted to manipulate the final
Yeah.
allocations of seats and the
He was
count.
fiddling with the numbers.
Yes, yes, exactly. And people forget this. So, we at the end of that saga, you will recall that it was Vincent Alexander that was able to immediately highlight,
Yeah.
identify
And
the
flag that.
error. And that is where we were able to get there was a majority in the opposition just because that additional seat was allocated.
Yeah.
That's when the
Yeah.
PPP had a minority government
Yeah.
from 2011. Now, Sharad, what is also interesting, you and I both come from the Alliance for Change. And I want to remind people that in 2006, the AFC, in fact, did not get 5 seats, but 6 seats. But through error, deliberate or not, I don't know,
Camera.
a GCOM error, one of those seats was never allocated to the AFC. The Prime Minister at the time, Sam Hines, sat in that seat and refused to give it up, although the numbers and the
Yeah.
vote count showed that we had won. And the explanation that GCOM told AFC was, they had made a declaration, and after they realized they made a mistake and nothing really could be done. That could
Yeah.
never be a reflection.
And you have to go to an elections petition to
And
cure.
we have to go, exactly. But it doesn't stop there. We had the fiddling in 2015, in 2011, but in 2015, we also had a situation where fake statement of polls appeared amongst the statement of polls at GCOM. Again, I am being attacked for speaking on these issues. But
Yeah.
Sharon, anybody could go and Google. I say to the
They
people,
alone have the
do your own research.
monopoly on talking about rigging,
No,
apparently.
exactly, exactly. And then this is when we actually, as a nation, realized that some of the statements of poll had a security feature that, of course, most people were not aware of. And that's when these statement of polls, just before, as we were moving to a declaration in the interest of the APNU AFC winning, that's when these fake statement of polls, which were tabulated to give votes to the PPP.
Yeah.
These weren't
Yeah.
fake statement of polls to help APNU AFC win. These
Yeah.
were fake statement of polls giving votes to the PPP. So, Sharad, as an individual, my personal position is that GCOM failed me as a Guyanese and failed the Guyanese nation.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this
Okay.
constant badgering, what worries me is this suggestion that this rigging it's never characterized or explained as a failure of GCOM and the organization called GCOM. But it's all Black people practically that are the riggers. That's what they tell
Yeah.
us in there. Each one of us sitting there is a rigger. APNU AFC rig.
Yeah.
And we know that similar
Right.
actions have been happening,
Conjecture.
instigated by other parties. What this means is that GCOM needs to do, we need a complete overhaul because GCOM needs to be able to deliver a free and fair election to the people of Guyana.
Yeah. And with that, Cathy, you're talking about Parliament and the dissent. I can only hope it's a dissent based on your own experience in Parliament. We learned today that we have lost a second electronic device, the what do you call a Surface Pro, Windows Surface Pro belonging to Hemraj Rajkumar, Member of Parliament.
Yeah.
You would have lost your laptop last week.
Yeah.
It suddenly appeared.
Yep.
Where was already sanitized. It suddenly appeared. Where are we, Cathy? Where are we?
No, we're in a very bad place. And you know what upset me? What upset me was that there's no attempt, I felt, by the Parliament Secretariat, the officials of the Parliament, to consider my position, right? Sharad, with all the pressures of being in Parliament, you could see my reaction, how upset I was,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
horrified I was that in the Parliament I could put my laptop in my briefcase and come back from lunch and it not be there.
Yeah.
Now, you see, what people don't know, you and I know the seats and the space between the seats.
Yeah.
Right? Now, Coretta McDonald, I am in a seat. There's an empty seat next to me, and Coretta McDonald is there. Coretta McDonald can't leave her seat until I move out of the way, Sharad.
Mhm.
She was waiting patiently and saw me pack all, because, you know, it's a funny thing. Something said to me, do not leave your things all displayed on the top of the table. So that's why I said to myself, oh Lord, I better put these things away. And I stood up there blocking poor Coretta as I packed up all my papers, my file, my laptop, zipped up the bag and put it to the side. To the point where I said to Coretta, oh gosh, Coretta, I'm so sorry. I'm nearly done. And she laughed and she said, man, don't bother. We can go down to lunch together. So, Sharad, there was no suggestion or possibility that I did not put it in the bag. So this suggestion all of a sudden that Cathy Hughes mad, you know, she didn't know where she put anything. I knew where I put it. What is worse is that when we made the report, the police then, when nobody was in the chamber, first of all, the chamber doesn't have cameras that were on at the time. And you would think that if you have everybody's private property in a chamber and you had the camera on before, why wouldn't it still be on? They explained that one set of cameras is only for the presenters. But this is where we need to make sure that, you know, there's another set so that we could really get a sense of what happened. Now, so the cameras aren't working. There are no cameras. And the police appear with my laptop and then say
Yeah.
it was behind the seat. Now,
Yeah.
if you look
Yeah.
at the seat, it's not possible. And as Coretta reminded me, 6 people looked for that laptop. Before I said anything,
Yeah.
I bent over and looked down. The 2
I thought it might
parliamentary
have been.
staff. Sorry?
No, I thought it might have been useful to have a parliamentary staff with the police as they were going around. That would have
Well,
been my first thinking.
well, 2 parliamentary staff looked for it. They
Mhm.
went to my seat and I didn't realize that. But apparently 2 parliamentary staff, Nima, who was another MP on our side, Coretta, and myself, we all looked at this thing. It's not possible
Yeah.
for it to be found the way they claim it is found. And I'm worried because this evening, when just before we left, as you have mentioned, Hemraj said that he put his his laptop in his bag at the parliament on Friday, took it home, and it was Saturday morning when he woke up and went for it, he realized it was not there.
Yeah.
And what is the thinking? They automatically have actually said to Hemraj that they were asking, he's staying at his cousin's place whilst he's in town, because remember he's from Essequibo.
Yeah.
So they automatically are asking him for the address of the cousin's place to go and search the cousin's place. And I had to say to him, make sure that when they are searching, you are there. Make sure you see what they arrive with. And it's not a case where they're going to now put the laptop down in some room and say, oh, look at the crazy APNU AFC MP. He realized to leave it right here. It's really sad, the extent to which they're going to is just unnerving.
Cathy, thanks for stopping by this evening and bringing us up to speed with some of the happenings in Parliament during the course of the day and your presentation, which was fantastic.
Thank you very much. You know, Shara, just in winding up, I want to say that one of the big points I wanted to get across is that the work we did in developing our ICT infrastructure, all the places that had internet, the ICT hubs and stuff, it's sad to know that this PPP government closed down the regional management structure that we put in, that made sure that in every part of Guyana, in every hinterland area where there is free internet, we had a person from the area with the requisite skills that could manage the technology, that could make sure everything was working. And that's one of the things that the department that they closed last week. So we have all this equipment and internet possibilities that could help with online learning, and we're not using it. And I also mentioned very importantly that the rest of the world is moving towards giving each child a tablet or a computer. Jamaica and Trinidad have excellent programs in that way.
Correct. Yeah.
Because when we talk about COVID, which we know is not going away in the next 2 or 3 months, we're still going to be dealing with it. And therefore, we need to expand and prepare all our children, not just children that have money and could buy a device, but the children that don't have. The state must provide the opportunity for them to learn. So thank you very much, Sharaj, for allowing me to just put that in.
Great. Thank you as well, Cathy, for always stopping by and really giving us a good feel of what is happening on the ground. Thanks again.
Thanks again. Good night, everybody.
Great. Folks, there you have it. Member of Parliament, Cathy Hughes, former Minister of Telecommunication. And before we go, I wanted you to see Senator Roxanne Prasad on the floor of the Assembly where she presides. U.S. Senator Roxanne reflecting on her Guyanese heritage and also pointing out some of the folks who are working very, very hard in the diaspora. I'm going to come back quickly at the end and wrap up.
Senate Resolution 183 by Senator Prasad, commemorating the 51st anniversary of Guyana becoming a republic to be celebrated February 23rd, 2021.
Senator Prasad on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. Today I rise as a proud daughter of the country of Guyana. Guyana is located the northern coast of South America, and it's known as the only English-speaking country in South America. In this chamber, we have a number of Guyanese. We have Senator Benjamin, Senator Brisport, Chantal Smith, Jessica Prasad. In the Assembly, we have Assemblymember Hyman and a number of members who are in the Senate Finance, on the Senate Finance team. Today, Guyana celebrates its 51st Republic anniversary. On this day, it is celebrated with a festival that comes from an Amerindian term. That festival is called Mashramani, or as we love to say, we are going to mash it up, and it's called mash. On that day, there are all kinds of things are happening. There are parades, lots of food, lots of fun, and everybody comes together as one. That is the only time, well, one of the only times in the country of Guyana that all ethnic groups will come together as one. Guyana is a country that's undergoing turmoil. It's a fabulous place, beautiful, you name it, we have it. But when it comes to political life, Guyana is a country that's divided by ethnic groups. Today, as they celebrate their 51st anniversary of Republic, they are continuing to go through that strife. On March 2nd of 2020, they held an election to select the president of the country. Many months later, they were still going through turmoil because there was no declared winner. Ultimately, the United States played a role in selecting the winner of the election of Guyana. The issues that the country was going through in that election are the issues we went through in our prior election last year. And the United States asked the Guyanese people to accept what was going on and not to fight it. Not to ask for recounts, those were the actual words, because they were asking for recounts. And then we've had the same thing happen here. Guyana is a rich country. But again, Guyana is a divided nation. We are looking, as we move forward in this 51st year, that the people of Guyana can come together as one and live under that motto that we love to say. One people, one nation, one destiny. And then we have a song that says, you know, when outside forces come in, they cannot divide us. But that's what is happening in Guyana. Currently, there's an oil exploration. Guyana has the largest oil reserve in the world currently. There's lots of money. And hence the additional fighting. Guyana is my country. Land where I was born. I am proud to represent Guyana. Wherever you go, we love to tell people, wherever you go across this world, you will find Guyanese. We are a proud people. We are a hardworking people. We are a committed people to our causes. Madam President, on behalf of the people of Guyana who are living in the United States, I wish all of the people who are living in Guyana happy Republic, happy matrimony, and may you change your ways so that Guyanese can live together as one. One people, one nation, one destiny. Thank you, Madam President.
Folks,
Senate Resolution
and there you
183
have
by
it.
Senator
We are
Prasad,
indeed
commemorating the
proud
51st
people. Indeed, we are a committed people. And that was Senator Roxanne Prasad in the New York State Senate. Folks, continue to social distance, wear your mask, sanitize. Social distance, wear your mask, sanitize. You're not supposed to be meeting in groups larger than 10. Somehow the folks at the GMSRC did not hear that or did not remember that. Don't be like them. Let us take our health in our own hands, and very seriously so. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening, and thanks for joining. A good night to all, except the Prime Minister, Mark Phillips, for his bungling of COVID-19, along with the Minister of Health. A good night to all, except Mark Phillips. Stay safe, guys.